going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we are going to be unmodding some of the factory mods on a Xtreme Recon or Xtreme 35 package Jeep Wrangler JL. And today we are going to be removing the factory tail light extensions. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I've hopefully got you guys able to see a removed taillight extension taillight over here and a installed factory taillight extension. Now, what these are is a extension that basically moves the taillight about an inch further out from the body and an inch outside of the body. Now, yes, I'm sure this is for a, light regulation in certain states that you need to be able to see the taillights from a certain angle from behind the vehicle. And the fact that Xtreme Recon or Xtreme 35 Jeeps have a larger, wider tire from the factory obstructs the view from a certain distance and angle. And yeah, that's why they're on there. But at least for my personal preference, I think they look a little bit goofy. It doesn't look as nice and streamlined as a normal JL does. So today we are going to be going through the process of removing the taillight extension, what parts you need, how to do it. This video would also work if you are wanting to install taillight extensions and you want to then watch this video in reverse and put them on. So let's look at how they look now that we have one of each to look at, and then we'll get into the process of actually removing and or installing those taillight extensions. All right, guys, so here is how your taillight is going to look on your Xtreme Recon or Xtreme 35 packaged Jeep. As you can see, this is just the normal factory LED taillight, but you have this very interesting, about, like I said, 1 inch spacer that goes all the way around the taillight to, again, move it about an inch out and an inch further back. So that is how it looks from the factory. If we jump over to this side that I've removed the taillight extension, you can see we are left with just how every single JL always looks here. We've got a very nice flush fitting taillight. It actually fits into the recess on the body, and it just looks, to me, considerably nicer, tucked in, more OEM instead of a kind of weird looking spacer extension. Now, guys, unfortunately, this isn't as easy as just removing the taillight, unbolting the extension, and bolting the taillight back in. You're unfortunately going to need a couple of parts or trim pieces for this unmodding of the vehicle. Now, I do believe there are 2 different part numbers depending on if you're an LED taillight Jeep or the standard halogen bulb Jeep. So again, I've only researched the numbers for the LED taillight trim piece that you need. So if you're a halogen taillight Jeep, disregard the part numbers that are down in the description. I or you will need to do a little bit more research to find the correct trim pieces. But these are the weird, goofy trim pieces that we need. These are basically the finisher panel for the front side of the taillight. Since they are obviously different because of the extensions, we will need a left and right taillight closeout panel. Again, I've got both part numbers here. I will throw them down in the description. And again, this, I believe, is just for the LED light group option. So let's get this taillight out and we will start swapping this to remove our extension. All right, guys, so jumping into the interior here, this trim panel, I believe, has been revised in the last year or so. So on the driver's side, we have this whole panel that needs to get removed from the vehicle. And again, we should just be able to get our finger and pull this panel up and out of the way. This panel allows us access to this plastic 10mm bolt that bolts the taillight in. Correspondingly, on the passenger side, you still have the small access plug like we've always had on JL. You will get a screwdriver in this little slot and you can easily lift that panel up and out of the way, and again, see that 10mm plastic bolt. So guys, we are going to now take our little 10mm bolt out of this thing. And if you have not had a taillight out of a JL, it is this very ridiculous plastic bolt with a huge spring thing on it. So just be mindful, it is plastic. You could tighten it too much, strip it out. But yeah, super big, weird, goofy spring plastic bolt thing here. And now we're going to be able to just take our taillight and move it out of the way. Now guys, we are going to need to disconnect our taillight from the wiring connector so we can do this mod. There is a red plastic lock tab here that we are going to need to slide out of the way. A wiring clip here. And then, last but not least, we are going to push the black tab down. And unplug that connector. Now that we've got that light loose, we can start tearing this thing apart. Okay guys, so now that we are over here on the taillight, we've got our new extension piece. Like I said, that is going to replace this piece with our large extension, but we need to remove a whole bunch of screws to actually get down to this thing. We've got a bracket here that is actually going to be removed and then reinstalled back onto the base of the taillight, but we've got to get all of that off so we can get down to our extension. The wiring connector will need to be unhooked. You can pry up on the front of this connector and then you can slide it off of its little mounting tab here. And now we're going to start pulling screws. Now we've got 3 screws here on the mounting piece, but we also have a metal clip here that will need to be a little more persuaded to get that piece to pop off. Now set this aside, this is obviously going to be reused. Now we are left with the next set of screws. We've got a screw here, 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 2 down here. We've got all all 8 of those screws that are going to need to come off to get our extension out of the way. Okay guys, so with all 8 of those screws pulled, I believe we are now ready to start getting some of this stuff out of the way. So again, here is our large trim piece that is being removed for that much smaller piece. And then we're able to lift this extension bracket off. Now we are left with a secondary bracket that also needs to get pulled off. This is a base bracket that bolts our extension bracket to. So again, this bracket will also need to come off. We've got a screw here, 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 and I believe that is it. But this one is also going to require you to unplug our main light harness here. And again, you're going to push the tab on this thing and then you're going to be able to lift that up and set it out of the way. Now, as far as I can tell, guys, all of these screws are all the same length. So it really doesn't matter which you set where. You are going to need to reuse a handful of them, but again, they all look identical length to me, so I don't think you need to be worried about which ones have come out of where. Now, our very bottom bracket here, we are ready to get slid up and out of the way. Again, it has another metal clip right there that you're going to need to get something under and get it popped up and out of the way. And now finally we have absolutely everything off of our taillight. We are back down to a normal stock taillight. So we're going to set our extension bracket, our extension itself, and our side trim closeout panel off to the side. and now we're going to start assembling our taillight. So first off, we're going to throw our new trim piece on this thing. Now, this is a left hand and right hand specific trim. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see, there is a small LH right there, or a RH, depending on left hand or right hand taillight. One will not fit the other, so you need to make sure you are putting them on the correct thing. As you can see, we've got four, if you can see, we've got four plastic posts that go into our four holes here on this side trim panel. You need to get those lined up, and then that piece fits on nice and flush like factory. We are going to have the two screws that go here and here. Now be mindful, I am only starting the screws and screwing them down just till they touch, and then going back through with a hand screwdriver. These are plastic trim pieces going into plastic housings, so you can very quickly over tighten and strip these out. So just be very mindful if you are using power tools to be mindful. Okay. Last but not least here, we have our mounting bracket that is going to now be able to mount back on the base of this light. We are going to need to get our plug plugged back in, which just plugs in one way, push it down till it snaps. There's a nice little wire routing holder here for the wiring harness, and again there is another one here. They don't hold terribly tight, but it's at least something. Now this piece again only goes on one way, and it's pretty easy because you can line up the slot here with that big metal push clip. Now once that is snapped into place, we do have 3 screws here on the back of the taillight housing to mount our bracket. And again, tighten these things by hand so you don't break your very expensive taillight. Now, last but not least, we're going to be able to take our connector and slide it from the inside out back into its holder. And now it is snapped into place. So that is a finished normal taillight now going back into the vehicle. Now guys, if your vehicle has any miles on it, now would be a really good time to take a nice microfiber and give it a decent little wipe down if you've got dirt, debris, rocks, mud, anything wedged around that taillight before you tighten that new taillight and just scratch and push dirt into your paint. Yeah, I know it's a Jeep, but we can at least be nice to them. So again, for our taillight, we're going to plug it back in. Till we hear a click, we are going to push our red lock tab. This one does have a little wiring holder there, and we will get this thing maneuvered into place, sitting nice and flush. And again, we've got that 10mm bolt, plastic bolt thing that's going to go from the inside. Now make sure you hold the taillight, because there is nothing holding this thing in while you're trying to get this to start. You can push the taillight out, have it go down, do things that it shouldn't. So again, hold that taillight into place and tighten down your retainer. And again, we'll have our trim panels, whether it be driver or passenger, and depending on your year, are going to look just slightly different, but you're going to get those clipped back into place, and you've now got a finished stock taillight. Well guys, hopefully this helps you out if you've got a Xtreme Recon or Xtreme 35 option Jeep yourself on how to get rid of those kind of goofy looking taillight extensions, or at least they're goofy to me. If you love them, great. But if you're like me and like the stock look, that's how you swap those out and return the thing to stock. You now have a little less something hanging off the side of your vehicle to get caught by a tree or something. If there's anything, I am happy to have less things hanging out wide on my vehicle to get caught on the trail and get ripped off. So guys, thank you for coming out here in the garage with me and working on the new JL. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.